Good Monday morning. So here's a scientific fact. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between the sun and earth. And it's not just any moon, it's a new moon. A solar eclipse can't occur unless a new moon. And then it's when the sun and the moon align on the same side of the earth. I thought about that because that's God's divine alignment. Man can't do it. Did you know that our lives are also under divine alignment? Yesterday's Sunday school lesson covered Exodus 1:15 all the way through Exodus 2 and probably verse 10. Today I want to go back from Exodus 1:1 and just list some things that our divine God aligned so that Moses could be the leader to free the Israelites from bondage. We start with verse 1 of Exodus that says, "So there came a new king to Egypt, new ruler in town, and he didn't know anything about Joseph. So Joseph, under the old Pharaoh, became second in command, and he was able to save his people from famine, his brothers and his dad. But now all of that generation is gone. There's 70 people that came over, and now it's saying there's a new king in town, Pharaoh. He don't know anything about that past stuff, but he is paranoid about, oh, there's a whole lot of Hebrews here. What if there's rumor of a war or something, and they are so numerous that they could war against us, and then they could just leave? The Hebrews were in bondage. They did the work for them. They did the building, the cooking, and all of that stuff. And he's like, okay, so we're going to have to do something about this. His way of dealing with it was to tell all of the midwives, two in particular, Shiphrah and Puah, hey, when those male babies are born, chunk them in the Nile River. If it's a daughter, okay. Shiphrah and Puah feared God. And you know we're supposed to obey the government as long as the government lines up with the Lord. This time the government didn't line up with the Lord. They knew Pharaoh was wrong. And so they didn't lie to him. They just said, he said, hey, what's happening? I still see boy babies here. And they said, hey, but these women are vigorous. They're healthy. And so they don't really need us to deliver those babies. By the time we get there, the babies are born. They can't snatch those newborn sons out of the mother's hand. So it happens that one day, Pharaoh's daughter, instead of bathing in the royal palace, where I'm sure she had lots of spaces and an elaborate, luxurious place to take a bath, she went to the Nile River, where it's been some said that it was considered sacred. While she was there, she discovered a baby over in the tall reeds, and the baby cried. And even though she knew that was a Hebrew baby and a boy, God aligned her heart to have compassion. He also aligned that Miriam, Moses' sister, was off to the side watching. And when she saw that Pharaoh's daughter was going to take care of the baby, she ran up and she said, oh, would you like me to find a nursing mother that can nurse the baby for you? Well, Pharaoh's daughter didn't have any way. She was like, oh, yeah, sure. She goes to get her mother, Jochebed. God aligns it that Jochebed not only gets to nurse her son that she's hid for 3 months until she couldn't hide him any longer, and then she placed him in that basket over in the reeds. Divine alignment that God gave her, that mentality to do that. And so now Jochebed is nursing her baby boy until she turns him back over to Pharaoh's daughter, who names him Moses, drawn from the water. Moses, because the way his mom knew, okay, I've got to do something to save my son. She went with what God gave her. Pharaoh's daughter came down to the river at the exact time that God aligned. Miriam was in place as God aligned. Moses was redeemed from murder. Divine alignment. Let me tell you that God has that same alignment on our lives. We may not be leaders, but He has created us with plans, with purpose, and given us gifts and talents. The journey there may be some tribulations, some trials, some bumps, some curves, some wrong turns, but the Lord is ever present, and He will complete what He created in us. Divine alignment. Exodus chapter 1 all the way through to go to Exodus chapter 2 verse 10. Divine alignment. I love you. God loves us. He so wants us to love one another. And God willing, I'll see you the next day. Have a marvelous Monday. Bye.